Good morning to the parents, the future UCT science students. It's a wonderful day to share with you what the science faculty offers at UCT, but also to give you a sense of what the science in the 21st century would look like. My name is Maano Ramutsindela, the Dean of Science. I want to share with you first the importance of science in the 21st century, emphasizing in particular the challenges that we face as scientists, as well as opportunities that we need to take care of. Before I continue with this presentation, I want to bring to attention the important session that we have organized at 12:35 today to deal with all the questions that you might have. In the space of this presentation, it is not possible to answer all the questions that you will have or you might have. And I would invite you to make use of the opportunity we provided at 12:35 today to answer the many questions that you have. If we were meeting face-to-face, that would have been the interactions that we would have with you. But we'll try to manage that session to the best of our abilities. So thank you very much for making the time this morning on Saturday to come and listen to me. But more importantly, to come and find out what the science faculty at UCT offers. So it's important that we understand the challenges that that we have in society. But before we do that, we need to understand the science and what it means. Science is all about the wonders around us, the things that we see that interest us, that raises questions, that make us more inquisitive. And that is what science is about. But it is also about creativity, wanting to solve problems that we see in our daily lives, that we see in the countries in which we live, that we see in the world. It is a vehicle through which we understand the world around us. Much of what the world presents with us has got question marks, and these question marks in science become an important entry point that we use to understand the world. But it is also about working things out, figuring out what we see means in real life. When we see the birds flying, we wonder what makes them fly. So we begin to think about many of the wonders of nature and how they work out in daily lives and realities. But more importantly, in our day and age, we use science to solve problems, the puzzles that we have, and to improve the quality of life. There's always a challenge to make science more important for human well-being. Now we understand how science is important to ensure a longer and healthier life. How it is important to monitor our health. But there's an element of science that we usually do not consider, and that is science makes life fun. And this has become more clearer more recently in the Oscar Award-winning documentary, My Octopus Teacher. Those of you who have watched this documentary, and I assume most of you have, would see that it's almost like enjoying playing in the water and finding out something that then raises question marks, that requires closer observations, that requires monitoring almost on a daily basis to understand what nature can teach us. And this perhaps is one of the important areas where fun and science come together. The joy of swimming turns into an opportunity to understand the world in the oceans, life in the oceans, that then becomes an important scientific discovery. Science also is fun in the sense that the instruments that we use, and here are the students in astronomy who use the studios who use instruments of different nature that they can then understand the wonders of nature. And what they do is to enjoy that wonder of nature, but also trying to learn what the stars could be telling us, what the universe tells us. But I want to come to an important point of societal needs and global challenges. Our generation has come to understand these global challenges in many ways. The clearest one is the human survival that has come with the COVID-19. The reason we're having this online virtual open day is because of COVID-19. So we had to find ways of trying to communicate even under these conditions. But COVID has taught us that human survival will need all of us to bring together our scientific understanding and knowledge of society in order to survive as human beings. These kinds of challenges are not only limited to human beings, they've always been there in the natural world. But our current global challenges also include inequalities. We see inequalities in society and we wonder how to resolve these inequalities because they pose a risk to society. But these inequalities also have to be understood in terms of their sources. And these are the challenges of our time that we cannot avoid as scientists. And changes in society have always resulted in changes in science, especially scientific inquiries, in terms of the questions that emerge. In the past, we understood how the wars were critical to many of the scientific inquiries, as people tried to solve the problems of wars, to stop the wars, but in the process, they invented so many other equipments, so many other areas that before the war were not necessarily considered important. In our day and age, resource consumption has become such a critical area. Not long ago, in Cape Town, we were running out of water. And whether it was simply because of resource consumption or changes in climatic conditions. But what resource consumption has also taught us is that we need to be more resourceful in how we manage our consumptions. And scientific inquiries have become very important in how we should manage our water systems, for instance, how we should manage our forests, how we should manage our biodiversity. And more recently, the fires have challenged us to think of how we could have better designs in our buildings, how we should better understand the biodiversity around us, how we should better understand our interactions with our biophysical environment. And these are indeed the challenges of our time. But what the challenges have done in the past and now, and will do so in the future, is to raise questions that make science such an exciting endeavor. But science does not have to be limited to classroom teachings, does not have to be limited to laboratories that we have. It also has to go to communities. And here we see attempts by our scientists at UCT taking science to the streets, making ordinary people understand the importance of science. We also have to rely on our students who need to show the passion for science and drive scientific inquiries. The discoveries in science are not limited to a particular generation. They are always available to anybody who has got a scientific mind, who has got some inquiring mind, who is inquisitive about nature, who is inquisitive about human-nature interactions. And our students in the science faculty have been very active in taking science to other areas. They do not have to wait to become professors to practice science. And I think that as parents and future students in the science faculty, you will have a place to play the scientific discoveries, to contribute to scientific discoveries that we have. One of the challenges in our country is to grow science not only to universities, but to take science to schools. Our science faculty has been very active in taking science to the schools, especially those schools where science poses challenges with regard to resources. Our science faculty prides itself by being part of this scientific endeavor in the country to ensure that our high schools are aware of the scientific communities and what they can contribute through that community. In other words, we try to invite our students to become part of a larger communities even before they come to UCT. And I guess that some of you would have benefited from this if we were able to go to schools last year and this year. But because of the challenges that we have, that has not been possible. But that is always our desire, to have that aspect in our society. But let me briefly give you a sense of what we offer then in the science faculty and why you should consider coming to the science faculty, sending your daughters and sons to the science faculty in 2022. We offer 20 majors, which cover a wide range of disciplines. Our disciplines are grouped into 3 clusters, and these are the biology, earth and environmental sciences, chemical and molecular sciences, and numerical sciences. And in the afternoon question and answer sessions, colleagues will give you a clear indication of how you could choose these majors. I'm just giving you a sense of what we offer in the science faculty at the moment. In the biology, earth, and environmental sciences, we have got 4 majors. Now, the majors are the subjects that you do from first year until the end of your degree. And they should ideally be 2 majors. So in the biology, earth and environmental sciences, we have archaeology, biology, environmental and geographical science, geology, ocean and atmosphere science, marine biology, and quantitative biology. In the chemical, molecular, and cellular sciences, we have got 4 majors, and these are biochemistry, chemistry, genetics, human anatomy, and physiology. We also have majors in the mathematical, physical, computational, and statistical sciences. And these are astrophysics. You will hear more about this. There's a session on astrophysics and physics today. And if you're interested in that field, you can attend that session. We also have a major in applied mathematics, applied statistics, mathematics, physics, and mathematical statistics. And then we have computer science, business computing, and computer engineering. But of course, the question that is in every parent's mind is, how do we get to the science faculty at UCT? In the science faculty, we have got faculty point scores that we use in order to determine whether applicants qualify to enter into the science faculty. I'm just giving an example of how we calculate these points. And if there are many questions, you could get more information on this in the question and answer sessions this afternoon. But if there are critical questions you want to ask, we will be able to take them now if we have a bit of time. We make use of 6 NFC subjects. What is important, and that's what I want to point out now, is that math and physical science give the applicants the greatest chance to be able to maximize the points because their percentage are multiplied by 2. You can see in this example that if somebody has obtained 85% in maths, we will multiply that by 2, and it gives a different figure. So it's the same with physical sciences. This simply has one message, that if you want to enter into science at UCT, the most critical subjects that you will need to look at are math and physical science. Having said that, it doesn't mean that if you have excelled in other areas, that is not necessarily considered. The point is simply that math and physical sciences provide that opportunity because we do multiply the scores that you have. Just in brief, the years for the BSc degree program at UCT are divided into blocks, and you can think of these blocks as the courses that you need to take in order to complete your degree. What I want to emphasize here is that in year 3, there should be subjects that we've done from year 1, year 2, that then becomes your majors. And that's what we mean by majors here. And as in the interest of time, if there are questions, they will be we can provide some answers to this. But I just want to give you a sense of how this is structured. In the first year, we expect students to do 4 courses. Second year, they do 3. And in the third year, they do 2. This simply means that in the third year, they've got fewer courses because there's a lot of work to be done there, because these are now the majors. And of course, choosing the major is always a very tricky situation. But I think that what you could consider is that the majors are usually chosen on the basis of your interest in the subject and what you're good at, and perhaps some of the idea that you think you want to work in a certain area. That might be very useful in choosing the majors. It's a very long process, but I'm just giving you a sense of some of the things that you would need to consider. And now that we have come to the end of our time here, I just want to briefly say that we do consider that the BSc degree, it's not necessarily professional qualifications, but it does provide pathways into some job opportunities when we have qualified in BSc. And again, this can be discussed further at the question and answer sessions and at the career services as well, for those who want to have a sense of the careers. There are quite a number of questions that you will have, I think that you might want to raise now, but most of the questions that you have will be better answered if you were to use these emails on the screen for your general inquiries and for specific inquiries.